You have to register. You haven't registered? I think you have to, do you?
I think so, forever since the time.
I know.
I didn't.
Here.
Everybody know that, all right, I'm like,
Want me to print a couple?
I'll do two.
No, look, you got it right here.
Depends how far you're going.
I'm going in Japan.
Good, how are you?
Oh, wow.
There's one.
Yes, sir. Oh,
Sorry, I'm
better.
nervous, but
That's the time of year again. What part?
Okinawa, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bases.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is it?
You notice it left.
It could be worse.
Yeah, you probably don't fix it.
Yeah. Forward bases. That's one thing I don't miss.
He's in California now.
Forever.
Morning.
2 hours.
I'll say it's not what I can send it.
It's looking good, isn't it?
What?
The numbers are looking good, aren't they?
Yeah.
Doing the numbers in the room.
I was just thinking maybe they didn't.
Then again,
Much like Poland or someone changed.
He told me he had this huge smoke on his face, so I know he's excited. Yes. Thank you, Sylvia.
yeah.
Ready to get started?
Almost. Almost. Jack Wade. Jack Wade, I wonder if you could let us know what department you're from?
Hey, good morning. I work for the Department of Environmental Services.
Ah, thank you.
He's with me this morning. Thank you.
Ah. Yeah, for whatever reason that gets cut off.
Ready?
Go.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the order the meeting of the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission Technical Advisory Committee. It's May 16th, 9:32. Do a roll call. I'm Bruce Thomas from the town of Hooksett, and you are?
Linda Coonhart, Francistown?
Brendan McDowell, Steve of Manchester, New Hampshire.
Angelique Pandolf, Easter Seals.
Andrew Haddock, Town of Chester.
Lucy St. John, New Hampshire DOT.
Zach Swift with the commission.
Tammy Zamoyski, Regional Planner with the Commission. Maggie Baldwin, City of Manchester.
Jack Hutchinson from Deerfield.
David Tilton, SMHPC.
Nate Miller, staff of the commission.
Tracy Whitehead, MTA, Hart.
Adam Mosney, staff of the commission.
Sylvia Von Allock, with the commission.
Ben Herbert, Region 8 Mobility Manager.
And on the screen, we have, introduce yourselves, please. We have Vanessa,
Vanessa Partington, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. Good morning.
Kristen,
Hi, Kristen Clark, City of Manchester Department of Public Works.
Mark,
Mark Sunan, Town of New Boston.
Suzanne,
Morning, everyone. Suzanne, the neighbor with the commission.
George,
Good morning, George Harris, Town of Derry.
Cameron,
Morning, Camp Roman with the commission.
Jack,
Morning, Jack Wade with Department of Environmental Services.
Alex,
Hi, Alex Mello with the town of Wyndham.
and Franny.
I know Franny Day is representing the chambers. I don't know if, Franny, I don't know if you're muted. Yeah, I know you're muted, but you just have to unmute if you're there. Maybe she stepped away for a second. All right, check back.
All right. Is we have a quorum?
You have a forum. Yep.
We have a quorum, all right. So the review of the notes from April 18th. Do you have a chance to take a look at them? We have a motion to approve.
So
Second? All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Oh, it seemed like you heard more aye, so. Good. Okay.
So, sorry, abstention for New Boston.
Okay, extended, yeah. Okay, thank you. First on the list, discussion of the FY 2027 to 36 10-year plan criteria weighting for Dave Tilton, Senior Transportation, Southern Hampshire Planning Commission.
All right, can everyone see that at home in full screen?
Yes, yes, hi, it's George, David, yes.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. David Tilton, I'm going to be presenting on the FY 2027-2036 10-year plan project prioritization criteria weighting process. So I assume many of you have probably been through this process before, and I'll try to go through it fairly quickly. Here we have on the left-hand side, we have the guidance document used for the last 10-year plan process. This is put together by DOT and the RPCs. And this is part of the process to have the project review process for projects to go into the 10-year plan. And part of that project review process is the project review criteria. And the criteria are the economic development, equity, environmental justice and accessibility, mobility, natural hazard resiliency, network significance, safety, state of repair and support. And each of these criteria have a sub-criteria that goes along with them. So the 9 RPCs all utilize these same 8 criteria when evaluating evaluating projects for the inclusion of the 10-year plan. Right now, the RPCs are working with DOT to update this guidance document. We do not know when that will be finalized and put forth for the public, but at this point, we are not anticipating any significant changes to the criteria. So all the RPCs use these same criteria, but each RPC is allowed to weight the criteria individually to reflect the unique needs and priorities of the region, which is what we'll be doing today. The last time that SHPC adopted the 10-year plan criteria was during the MPO meeting on June 28th, 2022. And so we have here those weighted criteria that were adopted in June of 22 by the MPO. You have the criteria in the sub-criteria, the definition for each sub-criteria, and the adopted weightings that were adopted in 2022. What we're going to ask the TAC today to do is review these criterias and make a determination whether these same ones should be used, or do we want to start the process of updating the criteria for the upcoming 10-year plan update. And so the next 8 or so slides, I will go through each of the criteria and review the weightings, and it's up to the TAC if we want to discuss during each criteria whether we want to keep that weightings or adjust it or start the process, or if we want to just have a discussion at the end. So here we have the first one, it's economic development for the criteria. The sub-criteria is local and regional economic development and freight movement. We have the definition for reference. I've included the weightings that were done during the 2023-2032 10-year plan update, but these are the weightings that we're going to be discussing today, the weightings that were adopted for the 2025-2034 10-year plan update. So for the local and regional economic development sub-criteria, we had an adopted weighting of 6.29%. For freight movement, we had an adopted weighting of 5.73%, which gave us a 12.02% for the category total. For equity, environmental justice, and accessibility, we have equity, environmental justice as a sub-criteria and accessibility. The last adopted weighting for equity and environmental justice was 4.26%, and for accessibility, 7.44%, to give us a total of 11.71% for this category. For mobility, we have two sub-criteria: mobility needs and performance, which had a weighting of 7.44% during the last process, and mobility intervention with a weighting of 6.63%. It gives a total of 14.08% for this category. For natural hazard resiliency, hazard risk received a 5.41 weighting, while hazard mitigation received 5.82% for a total of 11.24% for the total natural hazard resiliency category. Network significance, we have traffic volume, which had an adopted a weighting of 6.54% during the last update, and facility importance, 5.99%, to give us a total of 12.53% for network significance category. For safety performance got a weighting of 7.44%, while safety measures got a weighting of 9.81%, for a total of 17.25%. State of repairs, in the state of repair sub-criteria, got a weighting of 11.21%, and maintenance 5.64%, for a total of 16.85% for state of repair. And for support only has one sub-criteria, and that one received 4.33% for a weighting, which was the total for the category. And so now I'll open up the floor to any questions, comments, and discussion about whether we should keep the weighted, the same weights that we used during the last 10-year plan update, or if people would like to start the process to update those weightings.
It would help me if I saw the whole sheet all at one time instead of little bits and pieces. The part where my printer doesn't always talk to my computer.
I have a question too. If we want to talk about changing the percentages and the weighting, this isn't like additive. We don't take like 0.5 off of one and add 0.5 to another, right? That's not how it's done.
You certainly could do that if you felt that one should be reduced and one should be.
That's how it was done last time.
It was, okay.
It has to add up to 100.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do it that way.
Yeah, you have 100% to work with.
I just wanted to. If no one else has an idea.
Well, yeah, there's a couple comments in the chat room.
See where it's flowing.
You have to hit escape
All right.
because you hit them.
Yeah. All right.
They're regarding just Zoom
Okay.
technical difficulties. So
All right, you're here, Franny. Good to know. So, so I have just, I know I usually defer to everyone else, but as a voting member, I feel like I can actually say something about it. I'm just noting, Ben and I have done a lot of work with Victory Women of Vision. They're an immigrant-based agency, and I'm just looking at the equity, environmental justice, and accessibility. It is the lowest percentage at 4.26%. It's even lower than support, which usually has been fairly low. So I'm also looking, well, where would I take from? And I think I would take from natural hazard and resiliency. I would suggest that we keep those each at 5%. So it's a total of 10% for those two. And take the residual, which is 1.24%, and add it to the equity. And that would give it about, it looks like 6.5%. We're just seeing such a huge need for that particular community, and it has made a huge difference, our involvement with that group. I think often, these are immigrant elderly women that we're working with. It's a rather specific group. This is, of course, a wider group of underserved populations. But it has had such a positive domino effect, our work with them and with Tracy's work with them. And I think it's been one of the most meaningful projects I've been involved with. And I just seeing the difference in these women and in their lives and in their families' lives, I just think this is really important.
What was the project to help them?
We have been working with the Alliance for Healthy Aging and with other agencies, Transport New Hampshire, with MTA. And so there was a dedicated effort to work with Victory Women of Vision. This is a nonprofit agency assisting immigrant families and refugee families in this region. And we have been working with them, Ben and I specifically, on transportation services. And we worked with MTA. We brought them on a tour of the Green Dash. And it was probably the first time many of them were on a bus in the United States. And it has now opened their lives to being able to take transit, and it's been huge.
I guess I would rather, I don't have a problem. You want to boost it up, we can boost it up, but I would not take it out of natural hazard resiliency because that's going to be a huge problem. I foresee. I mean, we're already having a huge problem. I hate to take any weight off of the potential impacts of unknown catastrophic rainfalls that come in 15 minutes and wipe out your road. On the other hand, I wouldn't mind taking out of the first subcategory of economic development because you're just, in my opinion, from where I think about what you're talking about is upgrading the equity portion for the particular group you're talking about is going to create an economic benefit in their life. Even if they're just receiving welfare, they're going to be spending the money someplace else. So why isn't that just taking it off out of this economic pile and putting it down here, which is still sort of an economic change? So I would take the reduction from the 6.29 and put it into the 4.26 would be the only change I would make to your suggestion. Because I can't see reducing the weight to what's going to happen with hazard risk and hazard mitigation. I don't think those are high enough, but the rest of the way we've been talking about things for the last bunch of years seems to be, I don't see how much wiggle room we have left for the other items.
All right, we have a question from
Mark.
Yeah, let's see if I can get out of here.
Yeah, I just want to second Linda's position that we shouldn't take it out of hazard mitigation. If we think about the region as a whole, the equity areas are very, very small pockets, whereas the natural resiliency, hazard resiliency is a region-wide concern. I think that's a poor decision to pull it out of hazard mitigation. We could argue about where it should come out of. I'd be more in favor of pulling it out of support. At the end of the day, the support is a very small factor. If no project goes forward without support, so giving almost 4.5% to support seems like an unnecessary point total. I would rather see, if you want to take points away and move them around, take them out of support and put them into your equity zone.
I would support that modification to my proposed modification to the original proposal.
Other thoughts? George was just unmuted.
Yeah, I would support what Linda said too, and what Mark just said. I agree. I think that, what Sylvia wanted to do, I think knowing the group with MTA and CART that we're seeing that group for the transit for the minority women's group. So I would think I would agree with that with what Linda suggested, but I also like Mark's idea of the support. Because if you really don't have any support from the local officials on a project, it's really not, it shouldn't really go that far when you think about it. So I would echo with what Linda and Mark suggested. And I agree with what Sylvia too. I think that's a good thing, Sylvia, to support that group.
Andrew, you were gonna say?
Well, George and Mark have said what I was going to say. I spent some time last week looking at grants, and I think I agree with you. I think we should bring up environmental justice and pump that up a little bit, because so many of the grants are geared toward that. So if you increase the importance of that and you're weighting it, it may help with getting funding for those projects. So I don't, and I agree with Linda about not taking it away from resilience.
If there's no more discussion, I would make that motion to,
Well, what would be the numbers?
um,
So I'm seeing like the local and regional economic development. If we move that to 6%, that's making.
so but I wanna, I'm on Mark's team now. I wanna leave the economic bubble at what it is and subtract some from support to get the 4.26 up to 4.75.
I'd even be willing to suggest as a starting point, let's drop support all the way down to a single percent, just a flat 1% on support. I'd even go to 0 if that's reasonable, but I'll start my bidding at 1% and move that balance of 3.33 into however you want to break it out in the equity, environmental justice, and accessibility category.
Can I just say something? I guess I hate this, with all due respect to everybody, I disagree with everybody's comments. I think we should keep it the way it is. I think the support is definitely needed at the local, regional, statewide level. Just to give you a quick example, the Department of Transportation started work on Route 3 in Hooksett, which is like a major travel way, with absolutely no notification of the town. So I don't think they're supporting the towns enough. So I don't think we should remove it from support. I think as far as the equity and environmental justice, I think based on what Sylvia said, I think the system's working right now. And I think that the degree that I don't think we should take it from economic development, because I think that's easily just as important as equity, justice, and accessibility. And I think the equity and justice and the environmental justice and accessibility is already almost 12%, which I think is sufficient. So with that being said, I'll certainly support anything that everybody votes on, but that's my opinion.
Right, so when you're looking at the totals of when you look at the subtotal categories is where you're seeing what you think are differences, but when you look at the total subtotals for each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories, they're, except for support, they're relatively equal. Although safety is one that's higher than everything else, because that's where we always get yelled at, that we're trying to keep people from getting dead.
Yeah, safety and repair are the highest, which does seem to make sense. Do we have anything in chat? I don't.
Nope.
Nobody in chat.
Nobody can bring up the share screen again if we'd like.
Then the next one after that is mobility. And it starts to get fairly close with network significance.
I'll make one observation from the perspective of one of the people that ends up trying to figure out how to evaluate projects according to these different criteria. It is, there are not large differences project by project in accessibility. when you're evaluating one project versus another, it's difficult, the way that the accessibility criterion is defined, to find substantive differences project to project from what they provide on an accessibility basis. It's easier to evaluate project by project versus in accordance with their potential impacts or benefits to environmental justice communities or traditionally underserved populations. You could potentially flip
Those two numbers within the
yes,
within the
and
subcategories.
thereby
Okay,
that's a possibility that you could consider, because in practice, it
That'd
is
be
more
unique.
difficult to evaluate project by project, the accessibility differences.
I would be happy just to make them even instead of so different. I mean, I appreciate you know, that there are pockets, but that so if we could at least make maybe that to 6% and steal from the accessibility, that I think that would be,
so just flip the subcategory numbers,
well,
adjust them.
the point drives me crazy. I'd rather make them one whole. So I'm just saying, can we make 6% and the rest goes to accessibility?
Okay.
With that, so I'm gonna make that motion within the equity, environmental justice and accessibility. We take the percentage needed from accessibility to environmental justice. So environmental justice is 6%. I'm not doing the math. It's like 5.71, right?
That is correct.
5.71%.
Second.
We have a,
We have a second, Andrew.
all in, are you voting for or speaking?
I seconded.
Oh, okay. All in favor? Any opposed?
Oh, I'm gonna oppose it. I would go for equal. I'm not ready to flip all.
Okay, equal would be, well, one's gonna be a tiny bit.
Be somewhere around 5.85.
Not unanimous, I'll go for equal.
5.85% each. something.
All right, I'll take back, well, you've already, it hasn't worked, so 5.85 and one is 5.86, is that right?
Yeah, something.
5.86, all right, new motion. Well, the first move, I don't think the first motion passed. There wasn't a lot of voting on that one. So I'm gonna make a new motion that they're pretty much equal, 5.86 and 5.85 respectively.
Second? I'll second. Could everybody speak up if either yes or no? So all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, I.
Negative?
And one abstention.
Who abstained? Lucy?
Okay. Looks like it passes.
I saw a thumbs up from
Yes, George.
George and Mark. All right. Thank you.
I'm here, but Maggie's there, so I assume she's voting for us.
I assume Kristen was voting for us.
I don't think I can vote like next, you need her for the quorum though, right? So
I thought Brandon was voting, so I'm
Oh.
so confused.
Do we have, is Maggie the quorum maker? Might be.
Well, I guess in terms of the city, is it just one person that gets to vote for the city? Given that
Under the bylaws, it's actually both,
it is both of us.
one from DPW, one.
Well, I'd be happy to vote if it comes up.
Same.
Okay,
So did that pass? Looks like it passed.
Yes.
it passed.
So the only change that's been made so far is
They're equal.
equity and environmental justice is going to 5.86%, accessibility is going to 5.85%.
Yes.
So,
And I'm a little worried that hazard mitigation hasn't been bumped up, but I guess I could live with it. Like, do we really want to steal from safety to, is stealing from safety to increase natural hazardation weighting? a safety factor too? Because if you're driving along and it rains out and the side of the road washes off, isn't that a safety factor? Should we just leave it be how it is? Does it meet our needs the way it is?
So,
Or the total, the complete?
oh,
Are we happy? I guess we're happy.
I think we're happy.
So then,
I'm happy.
so do we need to finish it? Are we finishing up? That's the only change that I.
Unless you're proposing a change, right?
I guess I can live with it.
You can live with it?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
So the final conclusion of this would be that the TAC would
Recommend to the
recommend
MPO.
to the MPO
Okay,
these revised weightings for use in the 2027 to 2036 10-year plan. Wow.
Nate, do you need a motion? Do we need a formal motion to have TAC recommended?
That would be good.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend the changes for the criteria we use for the weighting for the tip as proposed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Next on the list, model of complete streets policy update. Tony Zanowski, Regional Plan of Southern Hampshire.
I am not Emmy, but I'm gonna kick off the presentation.
Thank you for that clarification.
Right, can everyone see that?
Yes, yes.
All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the complete streets policy template development today. This work, some of you might remember, began back in 2016 when SNHPC developed a complete streets toolkit. It was published in January of 2017. And just last year, we did a maintenance update of the plan, which is, we didn't throw it out and start over. We just went in and added some best practices, some complete streets examples from around New Hampshire, the US, and even beyond. Since that time, we've formed a TAC subcommittee to guide development of a complete streets sample resolution and policy. So that work has been ongoing for the last few months. The subcommittee met in September of 2023. It was composed of Manchester DPW, New Hampshire DES, Greater Manchester Chamber, and of course, our staff. Back in September, we talked about kind of the basics of the policy template. We discussed barriers and opportunities, as well as next steps, how this might be implemented in our region. So for the complete streets policy, we're going on the recommendations of Smart Growth America, which is the organization that kind of oversees complete streets in the US. Talking about an effective process and specific actions. They want policy to ensure complete streets are considered in all transportation decisions. And then they also talk about implementation mechanisms. So if a town or city adopts this, they recommend a complete streets advisory committee, audits of guidance documents, benchmarks for annual evaluation, and project implementation checklist. And so Smart Growth America ranks policies nationwide, and the top 3 policies over the last few years were in Howard County, Maryland, Rogersville, Missouri, and El Paso, Texas. Howard County actually got a perfect score. These are the 10 criteria which they rate the policies on. So I won't go through these in detail. That could probably be another presentation in and of itself. But it's interesting to note that Howard County is an affluent county between Baltimore and Washington. Population about 400,000. Rogersville, Missouri is a small city, population about 4,000. And then everyone's heard of El Paso, Texas, which is about the size of Boston. So these policies are adopted in all different types of municipalities, and that shows here. So the next steps, we don't have we've been working on the policy template, but it's not quite ready to be shared. So there'll be another working meeting with the subcommittee in the next probably a month or so, where we'll review the work Tammy and I have done, get comments and suggestions. And then again, late summer, early fall, we'll go into a brainstorming session and figure out how this sample policy might be implemented by towns across our region. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy, who's going to talk about some of the real world examples of complete streets.
Thanks, Adam. So I just wanted to quickly highlight one of the other complete streets related projects that we just finished. I think it was this month's issue of Town and City article or magazine. We did an article with some of the other planning commissions on the complete streets projects that are happening in New Hampshire. And something that we did to supplement that article was create this story map that shows all of the policies as well as some of the plans and upcoming and recently completed projects in the state. So I would encourage you to check this out. It's a really great resource, and it has links to a lot of the other documents. While we've been putting together the model policy, we've been taking into consideration the fact that all of our communities have different current and future needs, different contexts, as well as different resources. So I just wanted to highlight some pretty different looking complete streets examples, just to kind of get you guys thinking about what it might look like for your community. So some of the low-hanging fruit is pop-up planning. This is a great way to test out some ideas before actually committing to a transformation in your community. So the picture on the left is from Bethlehem and the one on the right is from Whitefield, and SNHPC does have some supplies, and we're always happy to bring them out to your community to show you what some of these installations might look like. Here's an example of a short to medium term solution. So if you're familiar with the Goffstown and New Boston rail trails, you'll know that they're great resources and they don't currently connect to each other. So this is on 114. As a short-term solution, we worked with New Hampshire DOT, both towns and both rail trail groups to come up with the idea of putting bicycle pavement markers in the shoulder of 114. So not only does this give people who are using the two trails more of a sense of belonging on the road, but it also really helps with wayfinding. So you know that you can cut through Goffstown and make it all the way to New Boston. For more residential and suburban contexts, this is a picture of a neighborhood bikeway that was in a Denver suburb that I got to bike through during the NACDO conference last year. So in some instances where traffic volumes and speeds are low enough, it is recommended that you can kind of co-mingle all of your street users. So this is a good way to make our roads safer for all users. So it's safer for drivers because everybody's moving slower. It's safer for pedestrians because we have better sight lines. This is also a nice alternative to some of the more complex solutions because you don't have to do this installation on every single road in your neighborhood or in your community. You can designate corridors where you want this mixed modal transportation. And of course, not everybody gets to live in a nice quiet neighborhood. A lot of our streets look like this. This is Kenyon Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. So I was just there for the National Bike Summit and I got to tour this site. In 2019, they had just over 10,000 AADT. It's a very busy street. So in this picture, you can see that there are 2 one-way travel lanes with one side with on-street parking and then 2 sidewalks. And this is what it looks like today. So now you can see that drivers, walkers, and bikers can all get to where they're trying to go with the greatest safety and the least amount of hassle, because everybody's traffic flow needs are met through careful planning and smart construction. So once the video stops here, you'll see that they took it down to 1 lane and they did keep the on-street parking, and it's still able to accommodate the traffic flow. You've got the cyclists and scooters, wheelchair users, anybody can use that lane. And then that keeps the faster moving traffic off of the sidewalk. It also makes it a little bit safer for the people who are trying to get to their parked cars, because with 1 lane of traffic, people are moving a little bit slower and maybe they're a little bit more aware of their surroundings. On behalf of the traffic counting team, I have one little update to announce. We already have one of the most robust bicycle and pedestrian counting programs in the state, but we do have some limitations with our equipment. There are only certain sidewalks that we are able to put our counters on, because the infrared beams can't shoot directly into traffic because it can't tell cars from people. So in the past, we've struggled to differentiate bicycle traffic with pedestrian traffic. So we just set out our first ever bike lane count on Elm Street here in Manchester. It was near the Valley Street intersection, which is just south of Market Basket. And I'm calling this program Counting Small Things with Wheels, because we're not just counting bikes. A lot of different user groups use bike lanes. As you can see in this photo, this is a gentleman in a motorized wheelchair. We also see people in the bike lane using scooters or skateboards or one wheel. So there are a lot of different people that are using bike lanes. So we only have 2 weeks of data right now, but I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of what we've seen. So in the blue, you can see that we set up 1 counting device in the southbound lane. So that's heading away from downtown. In the green, you can see that the northbound traffic is heading towards downtown. We were able to calculate the ADT for both weekdays and weekends, and they vary quite a bit. I'm not really sure why, but the northbound lane is consistently higher than southbound. The most popular days are Thursday and Friday. And with our technology, we're also able to figure out which direction people are traveling in. So you can see that 20% of people using the southbound lane were going in the wrong direction versus 12% of people using the northbound lane. And just one fun slide to end the presentation. Just a reminder that complete streets not only create nice places for people to live and work, but it's also a factor for attracting tourism. So this was the Tour de New Hampshire stop for Manchester. So people came from all over the state to see the Queen City's rail trails. And we also got to experience some of the downtown infrastructure, which was how we connected all of the trails. So after these 30 people got to ride around, they were hungry and we all stayed downtown. We spent money at the local restaurants, maybe had some drinks, and then continued on our way. So if you have any questions, or if you're interested in joining the TAC Complete Street Subcommittee, you can reach out to Adam or I.
Any questions?
Yes, and that example that you showed for the, I think it was the DC area, the conversion. Are those one-way bike lanes or are they?
Those are both ways.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tammy. Nice.
Next on the agenda, Keep New Hampshire Moving website overview. Benjamin Heber.
Yes.
Southern Hampshire Planning Commission.
Right. Good morning, everybody. As mentioned, I'm Benjamin Herbert, Regional Mobility Manager for the Greater Manchester Dairy Salem area, aka Region 8. And I'll be talking about this new Keep New Hampshire Moving website. Before I put it up and show it to everybody, I'll just give a little bit of background to it. If we travel all the way back to 2022, this whole mobility management network started, it was built. We have all these mobility managers running around the state, building these connections, boosting transportation and getting people connected to ride to get them to where they need to go. And while this thing has been in New Hampshire for the past 2 years, something else has been in development behind the scenes, which is this Keep New Hampshire Moving website. This has been in development through Transport New Hampshire and a contract with Millennium Agency, which is the website development team. And the idea of this website is that it's going to be where it is the one-stop shop for all transportation services throughout New Hampshire. So whether if you live here in Manchester, if you live up in North Country, if you live on the seacoast, anywhere, this is the one website everybody can go to see what services are available where they live. And it's actually something that our neighboring states of Maine and Vermont have done as well. They have websites, Go Maine and Go Vermont. I think this was supposed to be called Go New Hampshire, but that title was taken by gun owners of New Hampshire. So we are Keep New Hampshire Moving. And so I'll share my screen now.
Ben, oh, good. I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure if you were intending to share your screen yet, but yeah.
Not yet, but I'm about to now.
Awesome, thanks.
So, yep. Pull this up. That's not me. All right, can everybody see this?
Yep. Yes.
All right. So this is Keep New Hampshire Moving. This website is, today's date is 16 days old. Just went live back on May 1st. And this is essentially what it looks like. And I'll just give you guys a little quick tour of what this website is. Go on the main page, it just kind of dives into what this website is meant to be. So it's meant to serve both the transportation rider side as well as the transportation provider side. So for the riders, it helps tell people what services are available to them, help them get to where they need to go. And for the providers, it gives them all the information on all the regional coordinating councils throughout the state, ways that they can get involved and help build this coordinated network of transportation. And then go into their vision about Keep New Hampshire Moving and this whole network as a whole, envisioning an integrated system of safe, reliable, and sustainable transportation options that allow residents to maintain independence and participate in work and community life, no matter their age or ability. And then I'll mostly spend majority of time in the most important pages of this, which are, I would say more important, I'd say more developed as of right now. It divides it up into the different ways that people travel, different types of services that are highlighted here. So it goes into bus service, train service, commuter rideshare programs like Commute Smart, volunteer driver programs, any sort of active transportation programs, so biking or walking, ferry service, which that's not in this region, but if that's in the state, then we got ferry service, paratransit, any sort of taxi and ride sharing services like Uber or Lyft, transportation based specifically tailored towards veterans. So stuff provided by the VA Medical Center, and then other stuff, which is placeholders for now. And the mobility manager's role in this website is that we are responsible for having the information in our region up to date and accurate. So all the stuff regarding transportation within my region, the greater Manchester, Derry, Salem area, that's all stuff that's my responsibility to keep up to date and have on this website for everybody to see. And so imagine if you're someone, you have no way to drive yourself where you need to go, and you heard about this website and like, okay, I need to use this website to find a ride. So you will click find a ride, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what are all these? So you're like, oh, okay, I live in this town. Someone give me a town. Deerfield. Thank you, Jack. So I live in Deerfield. I'll just give that, and let's see who can take me where they need to go. Right here, Rockingham Nutrition Meals on Wheels. They run a shuttle service throughout all of Rockingham County, which includes the town of Deerfield. Want to learn more, you can click here and it can tell you what you need to know. Tells you that you need to give an advance notice on getting a trip, what communities it serves, what the cost is. In this case, it's free, but they do accept any $3 donations. And if there's any sort of eligibility for ridership. So in this case, it's for seniors who are 60 or older, and if it's wheelchair accessible. And you can also visit various links that tell you, how to get in touch with them. So go into the TripLink website, which is the Seacoast area's transportation database.
Well, Ben, as part of your work, would you have that say that you can only travel with them to Epping or Exeter from Deerfield for medical appointments on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, and only if your appointment ends before 1 o'clock? Will that information be on that page?
So in terms of,
It looks like we have a ride-through and we don't.
so in terms of like how much information we provide on here,
Yeah.
we have to I'd say at least the way I approach this is not to go too in depth, because providers are always changing up their schedules, their routes, all their information and stuff. And it would just be if we tried to keep every single intricate tidbit of information up to date on this, it just wouldn't be possible, and there would just be so much misinformation on this.
Well, one thing you could do is just put in limited service.
Yeah. And
I mean,
also,
Oh, it's
Check
just,
with provider.
I mean, just.
or check with provider,
yeah,
check with provider on service.
yeah, and I also don't like putting where it can drive you to most of the time, because a lot of the services are volunteer driver programs. And it's kind of, it varies as to if people can drive you places. Sometimes people get rides to Boston, a lot of times they can't.
Yeah.
If I put up there,
Drivers here.
what's that?
That's paid drivers.
No, this is paid drivers, but I'm giving an example as to why exactly I don't always go in depth as to where I can take people. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So this is essentially what it looks like when you go in and look for what provider can serve me, and it's for all the towns on here. So this is something that it's my job to keep up to date, because this is in my region. But if I go to, let's say, Hill, is that a real town? I guess it is. Mid-State Transit, so that would be the facility manager up in Region 3, which is the greater Concord area. So this is what we have for all the towns in New Hampshire. We don't have really private services, any private for-profit services, but they do have a vision to have them included as well. I think have them more as get them featured, or have some sort of payment to have them more prominent. I don't know the ins and outs. That's not part of my role in this. I'm just the person who has to keep all the information on there for my region up to date. And then regions is more for the transportation providers, for those who we want to get involved in this whole coordinated network of transportation. So this is where it goes into detail about all of the regional coordinating council regions throughout the state. In New Hampshire, there's 8 of them, as well as a statewide mobility manager. So you have up here the Coos and Grafton counties for Region 1, Carroll County Region 2, Mid-State Region 3, so on and so on. Region 6 and Region 9 do not exist anymore. So there's 8 regions, but you see a Region 10, just don't worry about it. And then, so Region 8 would be my region. Go here, and it tells you who we are, what our region is, the work that our RACC does, gives information on the mobility manager as well. So if someone needs to know who to reach out to for any sort of assistance and what they want to get involved in this, or just need help finding a ride, they would find information here. Goes into detail about the members in our RCC, about the lead agency of the RCC. So in this case, it's the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. And then down here, it goes more into all the resources associated with our RCC. So links to our coordinated public transit and human services transportation plan, our RCC Gate homepage on the SNHPC website, as well as links to the SNHPC website and the Rockingham Planning Commission's website, because a handful of RPC's towns are a part of our RCC region, as you can see on this map here. Then also any sort of transportation resources. So the transportation directory that I keep up to date annually, the I Need a Ride service, which is where people can just go in and just send a little form saying, I need a ride, I live here, please help me out. Resources on transportation services and my mobility management homepage, which are both also on the SNHPC website. There's information on our RCC meetings. So it's also my job to have all the meeting minutes posted on here as well. I also do my best to keep the information on upcoming meetings on this as well. So you see I had the agenda for the next RCC meeting on here, which is next Tuesday, as well as minutes going as far back as 2022. The regional projects is just stuff that is happening in our region, the highlights. So there's, of course, the mobility newsletter coming out every quarter. There's our Where Transportation Needs Survey, which just wrapped up earlier this month, and a report on results of that is coming soon. Then ways to get involved, we talk about joining the RCC, as well as reaching out to the mobility manager just to find ways to support transportation, support populations that need transportation. Just yesterday, I was meeting with an individual from the governor's recovery friendly workplace initiative. So I'm involved in all sorts of sectors throughout New Hampshire, just helping anybody who's disadvantaged to finding rides to where they need to go. And then it's just a little quick bio about me, but you all know who I am, so don't have to worry about that. And then down here, it's just all the providers available in my region as well. So you can see here, it shows all the towns that are in my region. So Atkinson, Danville, Wyndham, say what's in Derry, filter that, and then it tells you what you got in Derry. So the cart service and the caregiver service, pretty much the same way it was under the Find a Ride feature. And then these things up here don't necessarily take as much time to go through. Future Forward is just about the green and sustainable ways of traveling. So any bike ped work, electric vehicles, working from home, etc., all this stuff. These pages up here are more outside of my realm. This is more other individuals involved in adding content to these, although I did get looped into doing a blog post on here in the future, so you'll see some of my stuff on there. Resources where you'll find the statewide mobility management blueprint, any other documents that are relevant to this whole initiative as a whole. So the strategic plan for coordinating council on access and mobility, aka CCAN, the DOT statewide strategic transit assessment, all sorts of stuff you'll find on here. And as I said, blog and news is just little, it's in the title, it's a blog. You get the right little fun stuff about what's happening throughout the state in terms of transportation. And then About Us talks about the SCC, the State Coordinating Council. It talks about the chair of that council, goes into detail about why these councils exist, why there's a state council and regional councils, acknowledging the work that we do. But on here, like I said, there's the state council, all the regional councils, map there, the mobility management network, and then the healthcare transportation task force. Then the trip planner up here is actually it's an agile mile. Yeah, it's agile mile, which is kind of the same thing that Commute Smart uses. So if someone were to be like, to take a single trip from someone, give me a town.
Bedford.
Let's go to the beach.
Let's go to the beach.
Oh, good luck.
That's not the beach. Hampton. Then it'll show us, we got 2 transit routes we can do. We don't have this on the main page because it's not necessarily as up to date and accurate, because these aren't necessarily transit routes. This is a call demand service for people with disabilities, and this is a volunteer driver program for people with vision impairment. And then it also shows carpoolers, so anybody who usually, oh, that's not a carpooler, that's not a volunteer driver program. You can see why this part isn't posted on the main page yet, because it's not necessarily as up to date as the other pages that we have, but
Tammy will do the bike route.
yeah. And Tammy's got the bike route down, but it's this is something that they're also working on getting up to date, probably with input from us as well, just to make sure that all information is accurate. But the whole Find a Ride feature here, just putting in what town you live in and having anything pop up, is really the thing that we're focusing on the most, than helping people throughout New Hampshire find rides to get to where they need to go. I think that's all I have to say about this website.
Questions?
Yes, any questions, comments? This is only 16 days old, so it's definitely still in development, and any suggestions I could certainly make happen.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything from our home
Doesn't-
Can stop sharing.
Ben, that was excellent. Great job on that. This is George. Derek.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was interesting. Next is on-call engineering RFQ evaluation subcommittee with Nate Miller, Southern Hampshire Planning Commission.
Yeah, so every 2 years, we put out a request for qualifications for on-call engineering services. We use on-call engineering largely to scope and provide cost estimates for 10-year plan projects. That's a requirement of the 10-year plan process. But unique to our region is in addition to project scoping and cost estimating, we also use our on-call engineer to assist us in maintaining and updating our regional travel demand model. VHB is our current on-call engineer. Our contract with VHB expires at the end of this fiscal year. And so we're moving towards selecting our next on-call engineer for the next 2 years, which may be VHB if they propose, or it may be a new firm, depending on the proposals. That process has worked well in the past when we've had a TAC subcommittee work with our staff to review the proposals that come in from engineering firms. And if necessary, conduct any interviews and ultimately select in this case, the most qualified firm to provide that work. In your packets, I included the RFQ that we have released. And so it's been out, we ran legal notices to the union leader. I sent direct invitations to 6 different well-known engineering firms in the region. Also, our colleagues at DOT, Bill Oldenburg and Toby, put it out on their consultant listserv. They have DOT maintains a listserv for the consulting community, so they promoted this RFQ. I do expect we'll get a number of responses this cycle, and we would certainly welcome a few volunteers to help us with that process of evaluating proposals and selecting the most qualified firm to provide this work for us. Thanks to Kristen and to George Sioris, who have already volunteered to serve in this capacity, but we would welcome 1 or 2 other volunteers to join them and work with our staff to evaluate the engineering proposals. Don't all speak at once.
If you need another body, I can show up.
Thank you, Linda.
Didn't you had someone else who said they would, right?
George and Kristen have volunteered.
Oh, well, that's 3.
Linda has technically volunteered.
I've been there before, but I am married to an engineer, but I'm not exactly, I do know how engineers think.
We will consider that to be Linda volunteering to serve. Anybody else wish to help us with this process? It won't be too burdensome. We're pretty efficient.
I'll help.
Thank you, Bruce. So Bruce, Linda, George, and Kristen, thanks to all of you.
That'd be a good team.
And you'll be hearing from us soon. I think our closing date for Friday, July 14th is when proposals are due. We will get those proposals to you shortly thereafter and schedule a time to review and discuss the proposals and determine if any interviews may be necessary. So thanks, everyone. Quick item. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
Under other business, I just, since we have a full house today, would love to just ask our TAC members if they have any requests for topics they'd like to know more about, or that they're itching to hear about. If you can't think of it right now, please email me or Nate, but would love to hear from you on any topics that we might bring to the table. Anything from DES? Usually you guys have some kind of announcement, some grant, something.
Yes, this is Vanessa. I just want to let you guys know that our DERA program is currently open for accepting proposals for your diesel reduction, emission reduction projects. And that submission deadline is the 24th of May. So please send all those in to me, to us as soon as you're able to. And I wanted to introduce, well, I will let Jack introduce himself, but Jack recently joined our team about a month ago. And take it away, Jack.
Vanessa, can you put the link for that grant program in the chat? And then Cam, can you put that in the meeting minutes?
Sure, I will do that. Thank you.
Hey, this is Jack Wade. I'm just one of the new transportation analysts for DES. So I just want to introduce myself and also mention one thing I'm working on, which is compiling some electric vehicle charging site locations across the state. I believe Tammy sent us a list with plenty of good information on that. So if you guys do have any more EV charging sites that come across your tables, please send them our way. Thank you.
And that's sites that you want that don't exist yet, or sites that are existing?
So potential sites. So we're exploring applying for the charging and fueling infrastructure grant. We're expecting that to roll out in the next few months. So we're just doing some preliminary work on it, trying to identify some potential charging sites across the state.
Okay. I believe we've submitted it.
I get another comment. I don't know that the state is following any type of bike or master plan or incorporating town bike or master plans in any of their maintenance projects, or even discussing that before they do their maintenance projects. You know what I mean?
Could you be like, is this about your Route 3 project? Like if the bike, like if
Yeah,
the
like
bike existed?
that Route 3 project, we were not, they showed up on a Monday with like, you know, 50 people with all kinds of equipment and everything, and they're doing Londonderry Turnpike and Hooksett Road. And for example, the Londonderry Turnpike in particular is like a 40-foot wide swath of pavement or something like that. And I asked them at a meeting, we kind of insisted to have a meeting with them, and once the project was already underway, and they're not even considering, to my knowledge, bike lanes on the Londonderry Turnpike, which is, there's just plenty of room for it. And it's just, it's actually kind of annoying. I mean, I actually put a bike plan together, kind of an informal thing for the town of Hooksett, and I would have been more than happy to show it with the state, but it wasn't even on their radar to follow any type of plan like that. And I'm sure that Hooksett's not the only town with state maintained roads that go through it. So I think that's something that.
A communication hole.
What?
It's a communication hole.
Exactly.
Any ideas, Lucy?
Well, Bruce, you're saying that there's obviously a paving project and there's been announcements on the DOT website about the paving and such. In terms of, you know, putting bike lanes in the community and things like that, you know, by the time you get out there to, you know, start the paving, that isn't the time for the discussion, but you know, we've heard this before from other communities as well. There's, you know, the desire to put bike lanes on certain parts of the road, but it's not as simple as just saying, oh, we're just gonna pave another 4 feet for the bike lanes. A lot of other things have to be taken.
I actually agree with that 100%. However, I don't think there was absolutely no communication. And by the way, I don't believe, well, if it's on the website, it's kind of buried, but it's not on, if you look under Hooksett projects, it's not there. It could be buried in another site or something like that, but you know, a project like that, this is like a major route. We get school buses backed up and the parents calling because there was just no notification whatsoever.
You're referring to paving on Route 328?
Yeah, well, they're doing a little more than paving, they're grinding the roadway up, and it's a significant construction project with a lot of.
I don't know any of the other details, but I can convey that they're, you know, on the DOT website, they have the news releases, and there's one that talks about paving and looks at Route 328, that was May 3rd. They had one about paving in 93 in Hooksett. And the Hooksett public meeting news release. There's several of those. I don't know about any of the other communication, but I can share.
Yeah, they typically do send us notices. In this particular project, they didn't send us a notice.
You didn't get a notice.
No.
No notice. Okay.
And usually they have a pre-construction meeting and nobody was invited to that as well. So I mean, not to belabor that project, but the point is, I don't think it's on their maintenance. We've had meetings before where it was said that like somebody told the contractor, why don't you just move the paint striping over a little bit and provide a bike lane at the time of the construction, because it was very easy to do. But in action, I'm gonna kind of maybe raise a stink with the state. Maybe they'll do that, but it's just, I mean, there's definitely some consideration that could be made for bike lanes and pedestrians or whatever, that I don't think the state's doing it for the maintenance projects, that's all. So anything that we could do on this committee to help.
Any suggestions, Nate?
A bigger priority, that would be good.
I don't know if there's a way, Lucy, New Hampshire DOT might present to us how a community can find something on their website, what the kind of communication is with the community, what the typical protocol is, so that, you know.
We could have a whole talk on how to use the website seriously.
Yeah,
Because
it is
it's-
complicated.
It's not just DOT, it's as organizations grow and the drop-down menus become impossible, and then they're always updating the servers because, you know, the safety, what do you call it, hacking, they try to minimize hacking. And the way the results come back to you are like Google Eyes, so you get 10, and it's pictures, and there's no list. So what I know what Bruce is saying is that you get used to being able to use, back in the old day, you could go to a website and find what you were looking for because it was logical. And now it's fixed up. And unless you have a phone call to talk to Lucy about, can you send me the link to the page? Because if she knows where the link is and she sends it to you, now you can bookmark the link. You don't have to spend 45 minutes trying to drill down. Oh, that's the wrong column. I should be over here. Like the way he showed us the mobility page. You've got your headings, but unless you know where to start, you can never find it. So I don't know, but.
Well, I guess my big point is that the DOT and their maintenance project should be more consideration with bike lanes and accessibility.
Yes, on that point, there used to be a practice at DOT that when they were coming in with a repaving project, they would send a letter to the town and ask about lane widths and striping and bike considerations. Do they not do that anymore?
They don't do that.
I mean, that might be something maybe Lucy, that you could check in on, because that was a standing practice for a number of years.
Yeah.
That they would send a letter to the community in advance of a paving project. And seek input about bicycle usage and I think particularly in the context of how wide to stripe the lanes after the paving project, but I mean, that at least would give the communities a heads up that a paving project is coming. Start that dialogue.
Excuse me, Bruce, I will certainly follow up with both these issues. I do not know all the details, but as Pete said, DOT does communicate with communities on a variety of issues, but as to the context of this discussion, I don't know those details. In terms of the website, I think all of us can say about any website, but I will make you aware that, we are certainly looking at DOT's website. Someone at the planning bureau right now, and then there are others. As with any website, there's always opportunities to make it more user-friendly. It takes time, it takes, effort and different staffing and all that, but I can tell you that we are looking at some of those various aspects of it to try to make some improvements. Those things don't happen overnight though, so, but I do appreciate your comments and I will certainly take this back to share with others, because the goal is to make sure the resources are out there so people can utilize them. And if you certainly have any questions or can't find something, please reach out to me or anyone else in the Bureau Planning Bureau. Will direct you hopefully in the right direction. So.
Thank you so much.
I just want to add that the state does have a complete streets task force that is developing a policy for the DOT. So ideally, I think some of this would get captured because right now there is not really a process that pushes the DOT to implement or look at some of these facilities and where we could make some of these improvements. I say we, because I was at the DOT prior to the city of Manchester. So I think some of that will get rectified as they improve their complete streets procedures. I think you're kind of in the flux. I do think it depends if it's strictly a maintenance project versus a project that goes through project development. Because we do in project development, there are specific outreach opportunities and it's a broader look at the improvements, whereas the true maintenance projects that maybe district goes out and doesn't have that same sort of review process. So.
Yeah, and just for the record, Maggie, next to you is Tammy Zamoyski. She is the chair of the Complete Streets Advisory Committee. So we have an inside person on that committee. We're very lucky.
And I did take notes and I will bring this up. I just didn't want to speak on behalf of you.
But thank you for bringing that up too. And then the other thing, recently you had Bill Lambert, you were talking about safe streets for all and all of the elements about safety and what's going to talk about 10-year plan and all that. So all of those things are being discussed, but we can take that back to the streets advisory committees and others. To the implementation of projects, as maybe you talked about, there's various aspects of that and considerations that do go into when you're looking at a particular type of project. So
yeah,
I don't have the details of any one project, so I couldn't speak to that specific project. Share your concerns.
There's certainly a lot to unpack in all this conversation. I think one of the top ones, though, in my mind is immediate communication methods and how a community is contacted when a project is imminent and what that input is. Like you said, when they show up, that's not the time to sit down and talk about what they're doing. You should know beforehand what's going on. So yeah, appreciate all you can do to clear this confusion.
Just to point out, I do think they typically will let us know. In this case, they didn't. But, that portion of it might be unusual. But, the planning of anything, I don't think that was really considered. But anyway.
All right.
That was that issue.
Anyone else have a topic they want to chat about?
Mark Sunan just posted a great comment, something to consider for a future meeting. Tips and tricks to submit a successful 10-year plan package.
We have some experts.
Yeah, we could come up with a presentation on that for sure.
I like that one. Good one.
Can I comment? I'm just on that as well. In terms of that, I mean, obviously the RPCs put out their applications, how they define it, but I think in terms of looking at not just from a 10-year plan perspective, but look at it from as you're looking at your metropolitan transportation plan, you're looking at projects, looking at the future. So don't look at it just a 10-year plan, because the 10-year plan comes from those documents. So it's, think of it from a much broader perspective than from a more regional perspective. In terms of, where are these projects? What are we thinking of? What are we going to need 10 years, 15 years, whatever, because things take time to develop and implement. So I would maybe point it a little bit different, just a suggestion.
Okay.
All set. Okay. All right. Any other business?
No.
Sylvia, I just wanted to make a couple of quick announcements about resources and events. It'll take 2 minutes, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Great. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. This has been a very busy month with a lot happening. I'm going to try to put this into full screen mode. and hopefully that will work. But I wanted to share a couple of opportunities that might want to be on the radar of folks in this room or folks that you're working with. We are the climate action toolkit that's focused on roadway adaptation has gotten a lot of attention, and the New Hampshire Municipal Association reached out to us and asked us to present for a webinar later this month. So that will be happening on May 29th. And we can follow up with links to all of this information after today's meeting. So no need to search for it. We'll have more resources coming your way. This event will be free for any NHMA members. And I think there's a small fee if you're not a member. On that note, just to, if you do have a chance to read Town and City, in addition to the fantastic article about complete streets, they also asked us to write a companion piece about the adaptation toolkit. So that article is in the latest issue as well. For those of you who were at our March TAC meeting, we had someone from the Volpe Center present about the transportation equity study that's happening in Manchester and surrounding areas, really looking at how to connect people to education and job opportunities in the biofabrication industry. As part of this work, there's actually a survey being implemented right now, and I'll share a link to that. That's really open to anybody who lives or works or spends time in Manchester. And also, if you're interested in the biofabrication world, there will be a community update event that's happening next week, a week from today on May 23rd. It'll be about an hour in the Mill Yard. I'll say a few words about the transportation equity work that's happening, and it'll be an opportunity to actually touch a truck. I think you'll get to step onto the new STEM mobile. They'll be traveling to different kind of educational resources around the region, really looking at getting kids like hands-on experience with biofabrication work. And then very exciting, tomorrow, I think everyone's aware it's been Bike Month in May. Tomorrow is Bike to Work Day, and I just wanted to give a shout out. This is a great poster that Tammy created highlighting what's happening in Manchester. And there will actually be coffee at City Hall Plaza. The mayor will be there. There'll be some press there. It's a great opportunity if you happen to be in the area to show your enthusiasm for biking and multimodal transportation. And there's a lot of other activities still happening this month. I think a couple of rides in New Boston, and we can share this link as well. So I just wanted to let folks know, kind of follow on with some follow-up to some issues that we've been talking about over the past few months. A lot's happening, and glad to have you all involved.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was great. And yeah, I've already screamed about Tammy's poster. It's so cool.
It's amazing.
And tomorrow's going to be a not rainy day.
Let's have nice weather.
Awesome.
Well, then wet today.
Okay, we're set.
Motion to adjourn.
Got it. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's that?